So, hi guys, welcome to my workshop. And thank you for coming. So this workshop, I designed this for people with absolutely no coding experience in Python. Yeah. And have you already set up the Google Collabs thing? Yeah, okay. So for today's one, we're gonna talk about the basic syntax in Python, and we're gonna briefly talk about the most useful data types and the operations with them. And then we will go to the conditional statements, which are also the very basics ones. And then we will briefly go through the loops. Okay, so let's get started. So first of all, for Python, the syntax is actually pretty simple. So like if you want to like print something on your console, you just simply print brackets and then hello world. Oh, oops, sorry. Where is okay, here. And then you click on the button on the left, or just print out what you typed. Right.
Yeah, one thing you want to make sure is that whenever you're printing a statement, that it has quotation marks on either side.
Yeah, and we will mention that later because it's one of the data types as well. And then for the commenting, it's just simply when you don't want to delete your code, but you also don't want it to like operate in your file, you can just put a pound sign before it, and the whole line becomes green, and it's just not going to work. And if you click on the button on the left, it's just not going to print anything on it.
So the point of comments, like, I guess like in real world situations is just to like elaborate on your code. Because most of the times if you're working on really long like coding projects, you're probably not going to get the entire thing done in the whole day, right? So you can add comments like in your code to just let yourself know in the future whenever you do get back to it, like what you did here and like why you like took that step. But like the convenience of it is that like it doesn't affect your code, your actual code at all.
Yeah, that's what the comments do. Okay, so and then the math operations. So like because we are because Python is coding language, and it obviously it can do a lot of math operations. So like for the very basic ones, you can do simply 3 + 4, and then you run it, you get the result of this math. And also like more complicated ones, it also works here. Yeah. And then white space, we will go to this later because it matters a lot in Python. Like every white space is effective. You just don't add like useless white spaces in your code in Python. Okay. And then for variables, this one you usually when you are like
We started at 6, but we're recording this right now. So if you want to like look back at it, it's available. To get set up, you can just go to Google Colab and click on the and follow along.
So for the variable, we usually assign a value to it. It can be value of anything. It can be an integer, a number. It can be a sentence, or it can also be an expression. So like for the math above 3 + 4, we can assign a value 3 to a variable called a, and then we assign another variable b = 4. And then we do A plus B, or just calculate the same result as the one above. Okay. Yeah, and that's basically like the very basic syntax in Python. And now I want to go over to the data types and the operations of the variables in it. Okay.
Before we go on, does like anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can.
Okay, just go over. So like in Python, there are lots of data types, but I just want to introduce 4 of them because I think these 4 are the mostly used ones when you do actual coding. These are integer, float, string, and Boolean. We'll go over one by one. Yeah. So for the first one, integer, it's just as the name suggests, it's just integer number with no decimal points with it. It can be like positive, negative, anything you can think of. So for example, and also we can check the type of any variable if you're not sure what it is. So if you go like type and then 10, we run it, it will just tell us what is the data type of 10 and tell us it's a string. No, it's an integer. Yeah, it's an integer. And with any integer values, you can, like I just showed before, you can do any math operations with that. Yeah. And then let's go to the float. So float is for using is used for like assigning decimal values. And for number 10, let's check the type of like 1.1. It just tell us this number is type of float. Yeah. And just similar as any number, you can also do like math operations with them. Yeah. And then let's go to Boolean. So for this one, when are we gonna use this is we often want to know if an expression is true or false. So especially when it comes to the conditional statements, like the if else statements, it matters really important. And Booleans basically it just return 2 value, either true or false. So let's just do type true. This true. In Python, like true or false, it all starts with the capital letter for the first letter. And you type true, you will get the type of this value, which is Boolean. And then I will show you how can we use it. So for example, we can use Boolean to check whether we got a math correct. So for example, we want to check if 2 times 3 equals 6. So you should notice that I use a double equal sign here. It's pretty different from the single equal sign because with a single equal sign, it just assign a value to a variable. But with the double equal sign, it's comparing the operands left and right. So with this one, we will get the result true because 2 times 3 is 6. All right. Yeah, that's very simple. Do you have any questions about this one? No. Okay. And then let's go to the 4th data type, which is the string. So string is basically a sequence of character, and we can use the quotation marks to make any data type into a string. And the string in Python, it doesn't matter if you use a double quotation or single quotation, but it does matter in other programming languages. Yeah. So remember the first line that I print, the print hello world. The sentence hello world is having a quotation mark around it. That's making the sentence hello world to a string. And that is, we are printing a string to the Python console. Yeah. So for any strings, we have a lot more operations we can do with that. So for example, let's assign the value a. Let's create a variable a and assign value, say a string. My major is, and then I print a. We just got the statement printed on the console. And then if I have another string, say B equals a string, computer science. And if we want to concat these two sentences together on a single line, we can simply do a plus. So we can print A plus B here. And it will just become a whole sentence. Because if you print A and then print B, it will just on two different lines. If you use a plus sign, you can just combine them to a single line. And there's a lot more we can do to it. For example, like we can split a sentence to different components. So like, for example, we have a string, say hello world. And we want to separate the string into two parts. We can simply do string dot split. And then we can split it with a white space because there's a white space between every words, right? And we should get the sentence split out. So it's got hello and then world. It's not a single sentence.
You can actually split in like several different parts of a sentence. So say like this is like a really complicated concept. Like say you're doing like sentiment analysis, right? And you want to get rid of like all the periods in a paragraph. So instead of like the white space, you would put like a period in between like the quotation marks. And then you would just like get sentences without like periods in them.
Yeah, I can show you actually. Say we have a string with hello, my name. And then we want to split it with the, we want to split it with the comma and then white space and still split off. Oh, sorry. And then we will get the comma white space removed. And then I just split into two parts, hello, and then my name is Jenny.
I mean, with the comma, it looks a little confusing. There's a comma here. But if you look closer, you have this like one entire string that's denoted by like the quotation marks. And then the result, you actually get two strings. Hello is
Do you have any question about this four data types? No? So let's move on. Moving to the actual data science or data analysis, these two more like complicated data types are like very commonly used, which are list and the dictionary. So first of all, let's go through the list. And the list, you can see here, I use the result here, the hello, my name is Jenny. It's actually a data type of list because you see the brackets. What's that called?
Brackets.
Yeah, okay, the brackets around this, it's just a symbol of this is a list. And you have two elements inside this list, which are two string. One is hello and one string is my name is Jenny. And this is actually a very simple list. And for a list, it can be a list of any data types. So like you can have a list containing a string, an integer, and a boolean at the same time. Just like you have a list of 3, and then hello and true. And then for list in Python, we can, there's also a lot of things we can do to it. So first of all, you can create a new empty list. So for example, we name a list called list1. If it's just empty, it's just the brackets with nothing inside. And if you check it in the console, you run it, it will just show an empty brackets with it. And now you want to add something into this list. Then there's a very simple way you can do to it. It's just list1 dot append. And what do you want to add into this list? We can add anything like a number or a string. So let's just add our club name, BUDSA. List1. We run it. We get the list.
We're recording this presentation, so if you want to look back later on, then it's going to be available on our website. But for now, can you search Google Colab and then click on the new notebook so you can follow along?
So we append a new string to our list1, and we check what is list1 looks like, and then it will just show a list with the string BUDSA inside it. Yeah. And say if you don't want to add one element each time, like with append over and over, you can also do things like list1 dot extend, which allows you to append multiple values into your list at the same time. So for example, we want to extend it with some more names. So for example, we want to add my name is Jenny, and then also Christina. we check what is in list one. Gives the list with Jenny and Christina appended to it.
It's to like signify that it's a list. Because like with data types, you usually like, I guess like you can only do operations within data types. So you can think of append as basically like addition, right? Because you're adding something into an empty list. So like you would only be able to add like another list to like a list, which is why Jenny and Christina are in brackets.
And for any list, we actually have order for any of the elements. And in most of the programming languages, it all starts from 0 instead of 1. So we use this order, we can indicate elements in the list, and the number, the number of this order is called index. So for list 1, say we only want to know what is the first element inside this list, we can use the index, which is also using brackets, and then we type 0, which indicates the first element. And we run it, it will tell us what is the first element in this whole list. And what's more with the index is we can also do a sequence slicing with the list. So for list 1, we're now having 3 elements inside it. And if we only want it, we don't want the BUDSA in our we don't want to see BUDSA. We just want to know everything behind it. We can use a sequence slicing, which we use the index to indicate the position. Say we don't want the BUDSA 1, and then we just start from the index 1 because it's just the second element, and then we use
So the reason why we got this result is because you can assign BUDSA the number 0, the name Jenny 1, and Christina 2. So when she like spliced the list, basically she was telling Python, like, I want to return the element that's in position 1 all the way to the end of the list, which is why like she doesn't have anything like after the colon. So say if your list was longer than like 3 elements and you wanted to splice from position 1 all the way to the end of the list, you would use the same logic. So you would use like list and index 1, 2, and just a blank space.
and that's another operation we can do with the list. Yeah, so we're actually having a lot more operations we can do to list. And if you're interested in that, you can use a feature in Python, which is help list. And you can see a lot, like here, we've talked about the append, which allows you to append objects to the end of the list. And we use extend, and just extend the list by appending elements for iterable. You can also look over this because these are like basically all the operations we can do to a list. If you're interested, you can also try it afterwards. Yeah, and then you remember the data type string that we mentioned before. So for the sequence slicing and the indexing stuff, you can do exactly the same to a string. You can treat a string just like how you do to a list, just like we showed before. So like the string hello. Say we can use the index to see what's the first letter of the string. So we can do string in brackets 0. It will give us the first letter of this whole string. So basically, in this way, you can treat a string as a list. So do you have any other question about the list? So then let's move on to the dictionary. Oh, okay. Yeah, so yeah, you want to select a range of elements. Sorry, I just skipped this. This is similar to lists. You can do like, you don't want to have your first letter, say, and then you do the same as you treat a list. You run it, and you just only get the stuff after the first letter. Yeah. So now let's move on to dictionary. So dictionary is another data type. It's a series of key value pairs. So any elements inside the dictionary, it's in the type of like a pair. And I can show you an example of how dictionary looks like. So for example, we are reporting the exam results of students. And let's create a variable called scores. And with a dictionary, we have a different syntax than the list, which is this like bigger brackets. And say we have students Alice, which got 90 in the exam, and we have student Bob got 80 in this exam, and then we have another student called Charlie, which got 100. And we might have a fourth student called Dave, and who only got 50. Yeah. So if we run the scores in the console, we'll just get back a result like this. So what I mean by the key value pairs here, see the names on the left of this column. They are the keys. And then the value on the right of the column is the value corresponding to the key. And similar to a list, the elements in dictionary are also ordered, but due to a syntax matter, we cannot just simply get the first element from scores, like using those brackets and then using index 1. Since in this way, we are getting the value of the element that has a key 1 as it with it. So if we want to get the value of any elements in it, we can use scores and then type the key with it. And it will return the corresponding value of that key in the dictionary. And say now, like we're having a new student and we want to add one more key value pairs in this dictionary. What should we do? So there's simply you can use scores, brackets, and then you just add a new name, a new key with it. See, we didn't have a name Eve in this dictionary, but if we say if we wanna check what is the score that Eve got, we're not gonna get anything. But if we assign a value to it, say this person get 60 in the exam, and then we check the scores, we will see there's another key value pair Eve, column 60, appended to the dictionary. So this is how you can like add a new value into dictionary. And with the same way, you can also edit the value of any key. Say you want to change, you just realize that one of the students got the score recorded wrong. You simply change it. Like for example, we found out Alice didn't actually got 90. She only got, say, 85. We change it, and then we check the scores. We will see the value corresponding to Alice has been changed. Yeah. So, is there any question with this type? No. So now let's move on to the conditional statement. Basically in Python, it's just if, else, and else. So it depends on the Boolean to process. So what do we mean that? I'll show you an example. We can just use the score one above to like see how it works. Okay. So with the scores, we have all the key value pairs. Say if we are having, suppose we have the score 60 as a boundary of whether the student fails the exam. Okay, so let's check the result of Alice. All right. So let's say if scores Alice is less than 60, we can print something here. Say you fail the exam. And then if Alice got a score greater, like equal greater than 60, we want to tell them like you pass exam, you can just use else here and you print you pass the exam. And let's see what's the result. The single line you pass the exam appears in the console. So what did I mean by the conditional statement depends on Boolean two processes? If you see here, there's a comparison between the score of Alice and our boundary 60. It just see if this statement is true, then it will print the thing underneath, like below it. If it's not true, it will come to the next. So like it's comparing the score to the other result other than the one we're comparing, like the score less than 60. So for this one, we've got a false result, Boolean result with it. So the statement you failed the exam didn't get printed on the console. And it comes to the else, and you find it's true with the else. So the statement behind below the else get printed in the console. This is how Boolean works in this kind of situation.
One thing to make note of is that you see that the print statements are like indented. You need to make sure like you do that, or else you're going to get a syntax error.
Yeah, usually Google Colab automatically add you an indent with it, but if you're using other like editors, it doesn't automatically add one. You should add one yourself. And conditional statement, there's also one called elif. This one is when you don't, when you have like more than one thing you want to check. So let's just copy this one here. Say, even though you wanna like, you don't want to set your boundary that strict, and you find out like even if the student got below 60, if the student got about 50 points, you want to give the student another chance, then you can add a elif statement here. So right below the if one, you just give elif scores of Alice greater than 50, greater or equal than 50. You want to print got a second chance to do the exam. So for Alice, because we have, we know the score, the Alex score is 85, it's definitely above 60 and above 50. So she will still get the result that you pass the exam. But if we check for the student Dave here, which got 50 in this exam. So let's change the student name here. We will. Oh. Okay.
You have
Oh,
logic
okay.
error.
Yeah, I have a logic error here. So actually the order of any if statements, it does matter, because let's start with the first one. If it satisfies the first one, it will just print out the statement you want to print, and then it will not going to check the second one. So for the situation, we actually need to lift the check for this one above. Oh, sorry. So if the student get score less than 50, the student will fail the exam. And then we want to say if, and then we check. And then we check if the student got score less than 60.
What you should do greater or equal to 50.
No, if it's less than, you fail. And then if it's greater than 50 but less than 60, yeah, you will get a second chance. So this is the logic. And then else, which means you got greater than 60 and then pass the exam. And we run this, we will see the student Dave got a second chance to do the exam because he got 50, and which is less than 60 but greater than 50.
So like so Python will read like your if else statements in order. So as Jenny explains before, if like the first condition is met, say like if Dave did like get a score less than 50, then it would print out you failed the exam and disregard like all of the statements under it. But like say if the first condition isn't met, it will go to like the next statement. If scores Dave is less than 60, which is why it printed you got a second chance to do the exam.
Yeah, so the order really matters here. Do you have any question with the conditional statements? So let's move on to our last part of today's workshop, which is the loops. So for the loops, there are mainly two types of loop. One is for loop and one is while loop. So in what kind of situation do you want to use a loop? Just like we were checking whether student fail or pass the exam, and we had a dictionary of scores, right? We have several different key value pairs here. And we don't want to like write this code for every student. We just want to write the same length of this code, but it just go through every student in this dictionary. And this is where we want to use a loop. So it can help us to do it like more efficiently. Right. So let's check the scores here. We see the scores. We have 5 students here. And with a for loop, you can have for name and scores. So the name here indicates the every key value pairs. So we'll just go over every pair in the score dictionary. And that's what is meant by the for, like for every name and scores. And we wanna use the same code here. and there's some indent error, and we need to fix that manually. And here we don't need to like manually type all the name of the students. We can just use name here to get all the names. And we run it. We just print 5 lines, and each corresponds to the students, corresponds to the result that each students. So as you can see, among all the students, only Dave got 50, and only the 4th line turns out to be you got second chance to do the exam. And if you wanted to do it like look more beautiful, you can print name and add a name before it. So with adding a name part to it, there's an arrow, and you run it, you will see there's a name append to every sentence before it, and you will like see more conveniently who got what results. And this is the for loop. And we can actually do the same thing, get the same result using a while loop. But in this situation, using a while loop is not that convenient, because for a while loop, we usually need to have a Boolean, like a Boolean expression to check when to end the loop, right? So in this situation, our condition, I want to set it to be while scores. So this means while score is not an empty dictionary. So because for now we're having 5 elements inside score, and for each time we go through the loop, we wanna pop out one of the elements out. So then when the scores become an empty dictionary, the whole loop will stop, and then you will get all the results printed out. So how do we get the like one element pop out each time? We can set name equals to a list of scores, and we get the keys of them because the keys are names. And the reason I add a list is I want to turn a dictionary to a list. With this, you will just get a list of all the keys of the dictionary. So using the list and brackets around the scores of keys. Actually, I can show you what's gonna happen with this. So oh, it's keys, not key. Oops. And you will see the name becomes a list of all the names in the dictionary. All right. So for this list, we can use another method associated with it, which is pop. And you pop the first one of the list each time. So we have the index 0 inside the pop method. So now with this one, we will see the name will become Alice for the first loop, and then Bob, and then Charlie, and Dave, and Eve. And at the end, the list will become empty. The scores will become an empty dictionary. So then we can do the same thing from here. Just copy this section. And paste it here. And then at the end, we pop the element from the scores. So the same error about the S. Yeah, and here you can see we got exactly the same result as we use a for loop to go through it.
So the main difference between a for and while loop is that a for loop goes through every single element of the list and applies whatever code you put it through. But for a while loop, you usually have some sort of like condition before your code. So like your function will stop running as soon as like that condition isn't met.
Yeah.
Pop is just like extracting the first like value.
So I can show here. So say we have name 0 equals to this here. The name here is a list. Name dot pop 0. And if we check what is with the name, oh, it says we're popping from an empty list because okay, so because this one because we've already deleted all elements in the scores. So for this one here, name equals list of the scores of keys, it just become an empty list. So if we run the score again, see where's the score here. We run the scores again and we come back to here and we run this again. We will see the name as a list of 4 names. And then we run the second cell. You will see the name here. Name 0 here is the first one of the list, Alice. And if you check what is the list name now, you will see this list has no Alice in it. It just become a list of 3 elements.
So you can essentially think of pop as like deleting an element of your list. So the reason why when she ran the code name 0 equals name dot pop 0, she was extracting like Alice, which has position 0 from the list. And by doing that, she like deletes like Alice from the list, which is why like before when she like attempted name 0, we got an error. It's because we were trying to extract something from like an empty list.
So that's pretty much today's workshop. Do you have any questions about in parts? So this is just a brief list of what we're going to have for the second part of our Intro to Python workshop. So basically, we're gonna introduce the functions and function parameters and the libraries, which are basically in data science, we're using NumPy and pandas. Those kind of things are all the libraries that built in, like you can call from Python. And then I will briefly introduce how you can trace your code line by line, and then tell you some useful study materials you can find yourself. Yeah, and that's pretty much for today. Thank you for coming again. Yeah.
This meeting will be posted on our website at budsci.com if you
Yeah.
want to review it.
And this notebook will also be posted as well.
Yeah.